There we go.
There you go.
Okay, now we're recording again. Thank you for pointing that out. So let's see. Well, I guess one other thing you entered the way. Uh, at the end of this, when we go back to the main group, we'd like to have one person kind of present the results of all this. If anybody here wants to volunteer to do that, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll designate a spokesman for the group. If nobody wants to do that, I'll be happy to take that over. But if anybody wants to do that, feel free. So, first question then, just kind of getting started, is what are the best things about Rio Vista today? You know, you're the folks who live here. What is it that you guys like about Rio Vista? And I think you can all just unmute yourselves and speak. We don't have that many folks, so if you all just want to unmute. And I'll remind people who are calling in, if you want to raise your hand, that's *9 on your keypad. So if you want to get my attention and raise your hand, just press *9. So who wants to chime in first? So best things about Rio Vista. What's really great about the community today?
Okay, I'll talk about the community.
Sure.
Um, so I came here because of the airport, because I retired, but I still wanted to give back to the community. So I got involved with the Travis Aero Club, and I worked with them for 11 years. For me, the importance was the safety and security. The fact that I live in Trilogy, it's a gated community. It's not a secure community, but it is gated, which is kind of important to me. I was raised on a small farm in eastern Pennsylvania, so I'm accustomed to small communities. And like a lot of other people mentioned, we like to know our friends and neighbors and the people that we do business with. And so that's why I came to Rio Vista. And then I probably lived here longer than I lived anywhere else since I was born. So I love Rio Vista and the people in Rio Vista.
Great. Great. Nice. See,
I would like to chime in. My
Yes.
name is Ivana Kuchera, and I live in Rio Vista since August of last year. And to tell you the truth, I don't know yet what I like about Rio Vista. I haven't been here for too long, but
Okay.
what I do like is the community itself. I love to swim. I love to go to for walks and biking. But the most important thing is I came here from Castro Valley. So I was able to afford to buy a house here. So the price wise, it is great for me. I'm not seeing myself going back to work, which is in San Francisco. I will hate that commute. For right now, I work from home, so I'm very happy. But as Sue said, this is a very nice community. It's safe, it's beautiful, and I have everything that I need. I would like to see more stores, grocery stores. But yeah, the price, ability, affordability, and small community feeling. And this is the most two things.
Great.
Yeah, may I comment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I married into farming here more than 30 years ago and was in Massachusetts on the faculty of Boston University. One of the reason I came is that Rio Vista is the center of one of the most important agricultural regions in the world. And it is also part, and it has an important voice in the Delta and water throughout the state. The local agriculture is important, dryland agriculture, which is important when we have now problems with water, and the total economy of the state, and in fact, food production around the world is related to what goes on in this little town. Mm-hmm. And most people who are new here don't understand the history of how this little place and the people in it had such a great role in the development of agriculture in the state. and it's still hugely important. The local economy has still a large dependency, not as much as it was, on agriculture and the infrastructure. And there's also an important relationship between the city's general plan and the economy here, and the way this little town develops, and especially with Highway 12, the importance of Highway 12 is increasing, and the relationship of all of that to the county and the county's general plan, which has very important feature that requires that any urban development be within municipal boundaries. That's a hugely important thing to the development of the city. And there were some comments and questions earlier about Egbert and the relationship to the what's going on in the Delta and climate change. I would strongly suggest that if people are interested in this, to begin doing research by going to the Delta Stewardship Council website and the Solano County website to look at what they're doing, what they say about their development and what their policies are and how that's going to affect us. It's hugely important. And, you know, Thomas Jefferson, or when the founders of this country established a school system, they did that because they understood that there had to be an educated, illiterate populace to be able to do the research to understand what was going on. So there has to be an assertive action on the part of the participants to do the research to get the background.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my comment.
Great, thank you. Well, before we get to the next question, anybody else want to weigh in on?
Yeah, I would like to. My name is Jim Pizzalia.
Hi.
My family and I lived there for a long time in Rio Vista. And so I know what Rio Vista was like in the 40s and 50s and 60s when I actually lived there. I now live in Walnut Creek. I am participating on the Rio Vision Board of Directors, in part because of Albert's wife. I would like to say that my approach is a little different in that I'd like to see the city prosper. And so I know the general plan work group has a lot of work to do. Walnut Creek, where I live, I served on the general plan steering committee in 2001. The vision of the city is very important. It's really not just about the 7 or 8 elements that are required. So I'd like to tell you what I would like to see in the general plan, in part based on what the city already does, and in part where I don't think the city does enough. I like the fact that Rio Vista has, and I'd like to see the Rio Vista general plan vision include enhancing a high quality of safety. And we heard that from Sue. It's safety not only in the police and law enforcement, but also with respect to fire suppression, and prevention. We had a volunteer fire department when I was young, but was very strong in the community. I'd like to see a variety of active and passive recreational facilities, and I think we've been doing a good job in that over the last 10 years with 3 new parks: the dog park, the skateboard park, the promenade park. We also have the existing municipal park where the swimming pool is. It existed when I was a kid, and that's where I swam. I'd like to see us involve the city more in the educational, artistic, musical, and cultural opportunities. The reason is that you have Trilogy and Liberty, and it's very similar in some respects to how Walnut Creek grew with Rossmore. And the people that live in those communities enjoy music, enjoy education, And we don't have really any performing arts facilities, which is what Walnut Creek put in its general plan. We don't have any city art gallery, which the city put in its plan. In other words, the city has to get involved in these activities and these cultural opportunities. I like the fact that Rio Vista has, and I think the general plan should include, fostering small businesses. We heard that from Yvonne, that she'd like to see more stores. We need to enhance our economic opportunities in the core areas. We don't just sit back as a city and not do anything about economic development and enhancing the opportunities for a workforce and employment opportunities. I like the fact that Rio Vista has, and I think the general plan vision should preserve the enjoyment of the surrounding natural resources, the recreational use of the Sacramento River and the Montezuma Hills vistas, and enjoyment of these resources enhanced by our parks and bicycle trails. For example, in the 50s, we used to have a skiing board that was right in front of the city hall where water skiers would come by and fly up in the air. We don't have any of that now. What happened to that? We've lost a lot of those valuable uses of resources. I feel like the traditional downtown area and the general plan vision should be supportive of improvements and upgrades to the core area and to the downtown, and help in supporting the renovation of our retail, our restaurant, our visual arts, our performing arts centers downtown, so that we have a complete community, a community people want to stay in, and we don't leave town to buy our groceries. We don't leave town to do our sporting events. In other words, get more involved as a city government in these activities. I think we need to continue to recognize our history and our heritage of agriculture. This community was developed and built by 5 farming families. But you don't hear much about farming now from the city and from its government, or recognition of them. And I don't know what the sphere of influence around the city is, but we need to plan for the sphere, because as was mentioned by Albert, you have to be incorporated in a city before you can develop. The Solano County people don't want to develop the unincorporated areas. They want them included within the cities. One thing I don't like is the transportation and circulation situation that currently exists. And I think we need to support a circulation system between the areas of the city. We have various districts of communities. They're not well connected, and we need to work on that so that our residential and commercial districts by roads and bike lanes and sidewalks and trails are better connected to each other. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that I think we really need to work on. We need a city government and its departments to interact with the public and citizens more positively in helping citizens develop information, getting their discretionary or ministerial permits as needed, and treat them in a positive and prompt manner, and assist them in implementing the general plan visions that I've just talked about, and make it more flexible in zoning. It's too restrictive. If you look at it, it's more like spot zoning. If you've read the RUDAT report, you will see about 50 different items criticizing our current zoning. It has to be more flexible and meet the current cultural needs and the ever-changing cultural needs that people are having. So thank you for listening to me.
Great. No, thank you for all the input.
Yeah, I would like to, Jim, that was a wonderful presentation. I would like to emphasize something, especially for all the Trilogy people here, is that even though Trilogy's been here a long time, it still functions as a kind of separate community. I mean, it in some ways takes pride in not 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 having to deal with a lot of the problems that the rest of the city has to deal with. I think there's not just Trilogy, but there are the other places. There's Homecoming, and then there's a New Liberty, etc. That there needs to be a greater effort to integrate these different neighborhoods into a greater community. And that, I think, you mentioned doing that through the circulation might be a way of doing that with walking and bicycling paths, or shuttle services, low-cost shuttle services, that also emphasize the development of the core, not but the continuing development of the core of the city. I think if everybody wants this place to keep the small town atmosphere, then that core needs to be a real high priority.
Okay.
Yeah, and one other comment in relation to that. Over the years, we've had lots of talk about Highway 12 and the bridge, and this and traffic patterns associated with that. This is going to be a continuing issue, and as infrastructure money comes available, it might actually come to fruition. But any Highway 12 development has to be focused on the development of Rio Vista, and not going around the city and letting the core dry up. There needs to be a way to keep that traffic and the economic activity that it brings to the city. There needs to be a way to focus that.
Yeah, that came up on our earlier workshop about definitely improving Highway 12. One idea that came up at that other meeting was to find other ways, and I think it's come up in the discussion already, to get around town without having to go on Highway 12. So if you're living in Rio Vista, you can get to downtown from other parts of the community without having to get on Highway 12 when it backs up. Yeah. So that can be hard to do, because you don't want to build something that people are just going to bypass the highway and start clogging up the other roads. But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You need to do that. But you also need to protect the southern part of the town, because you can't have the traffic coming down here and then going up 2nd Street to that residential area.
Right.
Protecting the southern, the rural nature of the southern part of the city is an important component.
Right. Okay. I think we're doing a really good job filling this in. We've got about 7 minutes to go in this session.
Hey, can I just chime in?
Absolutely.
Real quick? So I kind of disagree with needing like another grocery store wouldn't hurt, but I think a lot of people feel that something like a Safeway or a Walmart or a Target is exactly what we don't need, because traffic's bad enough.
Okay.
And they keep building houses that the roads can't support. So I think that they need to address the infrastructure before they add more load to it. And I think a lot of people are frustrated with that, because, it's getting across town is a pain in the butt as it is. And, if you're coming from Fairfield, it takes forever to get into town. A lot of people bypass and go down Church, and so it's already an issue without adding more to it.
Okay.
So
good
that's
point.
just my thought.
Yeah, good point. Well, anybody else want to chime in on a couple of these? So I think we've got a lot of great issues to talk about. I think we filled that in really well.
Yeah, I would like, I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I read somewhere about new buildings, not buildings, new storages for the boats by the marina. Do we have anything in the plans to uh, build a new marina with little maybe restaurants or anything like that? I'm sorry, this is my first time meeting, so I'm not sure what is in the plans. We have such a beautiful river, and if I see more storages for boats, I think this is just, I mean, the boats need to be stored, but why not build another marina or something nicer to enjoy, or you know, expand the park, have more walkways. So about the Highway 12, Highway 12 is terrible and is getting, you know, getting new problems on the road. Can we reroute the tracks? Can we restrict the tracks to go different ways? This is, the tracks are a big problem here. They do damage Highway 12 constantly.
That's a good question. Truck routes are,
I know this is a shortcut for them.
yeah, and it can be hard to completely take trucks out, but that's something we can look at, sure.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I enjoyed Albert and Jim's and the other presenters. I don't have all their names, but I think everybody did a good job of voicing their concerns, and they have a lot of issues that need to be addressed. The as far as the communication with people in Trilogy, I think a lot of people in Trilogy do a lot of volunteer work for the city of Rio Vista. The issue that I see and there's a lot of programs that need to be developed, I believe, as Jim mentioned, and we have a little difficulty with resources because a lot of people who live in Trilogy, they're retired and they may not be physically able to participate and be as active as they would like. So we have two situations here. We have half of Rio Vista is retired, and people, some of them, they just want to play golf or do their recreation, and others, a lot of others, give back to the community. We have the core homecoming, Montezuma, the other areas, and those are comprised of a lot of young families raising children, and they have needs too for their schools. So I know I've produced programs through youth services for all the kids of Rio Vista, and we had some really good turnouts, like Fly with Fido and Up with Drones. And so I just wanted to make that brief comment.
Great.
And I do have a question of future meetings like this. I'm working still full-time Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. So it will be, if you will have a meeting in person, I won't be able to participate. Will you have any meetings on Saturdays like this?
I think they're planning on that, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's
Okay,
why we're doing
because
this today. Yeah.
I still have several years to work, so I would like to participate, but if you have meetings during the week, I won't be able to, so it is hard.
I'm pretty sure that there will be meetings on Saturdays during this. We usually
Excellent.
do, yeah, because we want to get as many people involved as we can.
Excellent, thank you.
So just a question, how many of the general plan working group are participating or listening in today's session?
I don't know exactly, but we have a really good representation from both the council and the working group.
Okay.
So they're here and listening. So we're almost ready to come out of our group here. Is there anybody who wants to?
I have a last comment.
Oh, go ahead. Sure.
Years ago, when Marcy Coglianese was mayor, and we were working on the sphere of influence, there was a city council decision that the sphere of influence would move west and north, with the idea of protecting the Montezuma Hills from urban development. So that decision was made, but unfortunately, Tom Bland, who was the director at the time, planning director, never took it to LAFCO. And so that that portion of that protection that the city voted on and that we all wanted down here never occurred. I'm wondering if as part of the general plan process here, we could revisit that and ensure that that we protect that rural character out in this direction.
I agree.
Yeah, certainly part of what the general plan does. So absolutely.
Yeah, but there's some things, some old work that needs to be finished.
Okay.
20-year-old work. So,
All right. Okay, we're almost ready to come out. Does anybody want to volunteer to report back what our group came up with? Albert, you don't seem shy.
no, I'm an old university professor. You give me a minute and I'll take 55. So
Well, I can't give you 55 minutes, but would you like to report back what we came up with?
I think, Jim is far better at that than I am.
I vote for Jim as well.
I have the same impediments. I'm a retired attorney and I would talk without a sentence period for weeks.
But you make your case much stronger. I mean,
I will try.
Okay. Okay, Jim, it'll be you. So our breakout room is going to close in
25 seconds.
25 seconds. So thanks, everybody. This is great input. I hope I recorded all your notes correctly. If I got something wrong, let us know. And there definitely will be more opportunities to take part in more discussions like this. And your input is really valuable, so we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're out of here in 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds.